So you're saying that a judge should decide how and when money is spent
a judge is saying,
for years, and not the president of the United States?
Scott, let me explain
You're a governor,
little bit more.
know.
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly. A judge is saying,
you don't have to talk to me like that.
Congress.
I have a position on this, and you have an opinion. We can disagree.
Yeah, but I'm saying you listen to me, because you're not listening, and you're making claims that are not connected to the facts. The judge is saying,
maybe you are.
Congress appropriated a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
We need to litigate this.
Okay.
While we litigate this, we're going to put a hold on the actions that you took that might be unconstitutional.
So while we
That's
litigate,
part of the process.
this, I'm a judge and I'm in charge of the executive branch, and you're not. Forget it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all is good wherever you are. Our boy Scott Jennings is out here torching this CNN panel, a panel that can't get over what Trump has done in the last few weeks. They keep on saying that, oh, the people are against it. No, they're not. The people voted for this. If you voted for Trump, you voted for this. The only people that are really against it are DC bureaucrats and the people on the left. Trump's approval rating right now is higher than ever. Why do you think that is? This is what the people want. Let's get to the video.
But we do know that judges do get to say whether the executive is complying with the law or not. That's been the case for decades, hundreds of years.
Well, I think there's a difference between saying whether you're complying with the law, and then you have these individual district court judges setting effectively broad federal policy that is specifically reserved for the president of the United States. I think we do have a constitutional crisis, and it's being caused by these judges. They're not here to tell us. They're not here to tell us how to spend the money. They're not here to set broad federal policy. That is the president's job as elected by the people. These judges are supposed to be settling discrete, specific matters, not policy setting. I think Vance is right. I think Trump has a point. And these judges want nothing more to continue the lawfare against
I don't
Trump.
think anybody's going to be surprised to hear that you think Trump is
they're
right.
doing this on
However, just on a real important technical point here, one of the main disputes is whether the executive branch can just decide not to spend money that another co-equal branch has said ought to be spent. So it's not just about forcing the federal government to spend money. It's saying Congress said you need to spend this money this way, and the executive branch saying, no, I don't feel like it, and the courts say you have to
Well, my answer to that simply is, it is the executive branch's job to figure out how to spend money once it is appropriated by Congress. And sometimes they spend money that's not been appropriated. But the correct political control is between the executive and the Congress, not some random
I want to
federal
return
judge.
to that because that is also a major legal question.
Do you really think that J.D. Vance's tweet is only about these district judges?
I think
this is about, no, this is a slippery slope because
piece.
they're going to move on to what the next ruling is. They're setting the stage so that they can say that the executive branch has control now over the judicial branch. They're setting the stage.
No,
and for people who think that President Trump has not planned all of this, he pushes the envelope constantly. There was January 6th. He has a myriad of people out there that would support the executive branch being able to rule over the judicial branch because there have been no repercussions. And when there are not consequences and when there are not repercussions, you get away with it.
I get it. You want individual federal judges who hate Donald Trump
No, I don't.
to tie him up for 4 years.
No, I don't.
If you want a big
Not at
policy
all.
questions decided, let the Supreme Court do it. But in the interim, the executive has to be allowed to govern.
How do we get to the Supreme Court? Can
Just
somebody
appeal,
tell me?
and that's fine. But you can't tie him up
we get
until
to
it
the
gets
Supreme
there.
Court.
You can't tie him up
we
until
get to
it
the
gets
Supreme
there.
Court by the judges ruling, things going to appeal, and then it goes.
And in the meantime, what happens? Trump can't act. Trump can't act.
In the meantime, you're supposed to comply with the court's rulings. Am I wrong about that?
Well, you're supposed to comply, but Scott's absolutely right in that the court cannot say you have to spend these dollars today. So as a governor, I dealt with this. We got things challenged in state court and federal court. It's all judge-shopped, by the way. Judges don't randomly get these cases. There's a reason that these cases are filed in Boston, the Boston court, or a certain district, Rhode Island, because they know they're going to get a judge that is politically
That's a great
favorable.
bipartisan practice as well.
Guys, if you don't mind, just smashing that thumbs up button for your boy really goes a long way to help me out. And also, if you're not yet subscribed, hopefully this could be the video that I earn your subscription. Let's get back to Scott Jennings.
Yeah. Both sides do it. I mean, I think
how many times that district court and judge one guy in Texas shut down Joe Biden?
But you raised the right point. Yeah. Should the president, the singular president, should he have to share the presidency with 300 district court judges? No, absolutely not.
But the point, though, you made a really good point that there have been judges that shut down some of President Biden's executive actions, and they understand. The Biden administration understood the checks and balances.
The Supreme Court tried to stop me, but they never will.
But not in the way that Donald Trump is.
Who said
not
that?
In the way that
Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Joe
but
Biden.
Scott, he actually didn't ignore it.
He
That's
did.
right.
They continued to plow
No.
forward with student
No, he
aid. How
didn't.
much did
No,
they spend?
no,
No,
Let me set the record on
He
this.
actually got dinged on the student
I
loan
hated
debt
the
forgiveness.
student loan forgiveness policy.
What did he say out
Hold on.
loud?
I thought
What
it
did
was.
he say
I
out
thought it
loud?
was a ridiculous
didn't
policy.
ignore it.
I thought it was unconstitutional. I predicted it would get struck down. It did get struck down, and I
didn't
applauded.
ignore it.
He did not ignore it, though. He went and tried under a different law.
So he ignored
You're
it.
allowed. No,
That's
that's
not ignoring it. That
So
is
he
trying
it's not
to
ignoring
be
it. It's trying to do it.
lied.
It's
He
trying to do
literally
it wrong.
defied it.
But let me just understand where you stand. If a district court judge rules in a way that the president dislikes, should the president listen or should the president defy?
If a district court judge tries to usurp the authority of the chief executive of this country, he should absolutely defy it. There's a difference between broad policy decisions and discrete disputes between parties. That's the difference. If I want a policy decided, I'll take it to the
But
Supreme
what about
Court.
checks and balances?
Well, Scott, you're
What
also
about
of a
checks and
district court
balances?
judge
What I
who
can't
elected
what I
them.
can't get with is you talking in these bizarre, broad generalities.
It's not bizarre.
Every single one of these cases deals with a discrete issue. Okay, it deals with funding. It deals with with certain constitutionally or statutorily appointed roles. Every single one of these things is a distinct thing, and they're all being dealt with by different judges. So it's not broad swaths of policy here.
It
when
is.
When the court says Congress, appropriated this money, you must unfreeze it while we litigate this. Why can't Trump comply with that?
So you're saying that a judge should decide how and when money is spent
judge is saying-
for years, and not the president of the United
Scott,
States?
let me explain
You're a governor,
little
you
bit more.
know.
Let me explain it a little bit more slowly. A judge is saying
You don't have to talk to me like that.
Congress.
I have a position on this, and you have an
Okay.
opinion. We can disagree.
Yeah, but I'm saying you listen to me because you're not listening and you're making claims that are not connected to the facts. The judge is saying
Maybe you are.
Congress appropriated a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
We need to litigate this.
Okay.
While we litigate this, we're going to put a hold on the actions that you took that might be unconstitutional.
So while we
That's
litigate,
part of the process. Why
this,
can't-
I'm
why
a
doesn't
judge
that
and
work?
I'm in charge of the executive branch, and you're not. Forget it. I
You
totally
just
disagree.
can't compel the executive branch to spend the dollars. You can't do that. They
Okay.
can't say we're going to start. The
Have
judges
you
are going to
heard
start
of
writing
the
the checks. They have every
impoundment?
right to
Have you
hold
heard
that.
of the Impoundment Control Act of 1974?
No.
Okay, well let me play this. let me play
By the
this.
way, none of your viewers have
Okay,
either.
well I'm gonna
I can explain it in a
play this clip for you. This is in Congress. Russ Vought, who is the architect of a lot of this, was being questioned in Congress about the Impoundment Control Act, which actually says that the executive branch should spend the money how Congress appropriated it. Here's what he said is going on right now in the federal government.
Do you believe the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 is the law of the land that you must follow?
It is the law of the land. As you know, the president has run on that issue. He believes it's unconstitutional. For 200 years, presidents had the ability to spend less than an appropriation if they could do it for less. And we have seen the extent to which this law has contributed to waste, fraud, and abuse.
So Ellie, this is the law of the land. They might be wanting to challenge it, but it is the law.
Right. The Impoundment Control Act says essentially the president cannot block money allocated by Congress. To the power of district court judges, and I understand your point, Scott. I understand the frustration people have when a district court judge blocks a broad mandate from the chief executive, the elected chief executive. Ultimately, the big issues go up to the Supreme Court. But I guess I would ask both of you, what if a district court judge had blocked Barack Obama's DACA plan, the Dreamers plan, right? And he said, heck with you, I'm doing it anyway. Would you be okay with that, or would you have a problem with that?
No,
Would that be okay?
So again, that's where we're forgetting a key piece of the third branch of government. That's where Congress steps in.
Yes.
Right? You have to remember that a judge can't just say, well, I'm going to arbitrarily block something. They say, I'm blocking it because of this, and Congress can step in and be more specific and more refined if they want
Well,
to.
how does that
And-
work with
but how does that-
Congress, who's
right.
appropriated funds for all of these other agencies?
So it can't work
and
that
now,
way.
And
If
now the
Congress
executive branch is
appropriates $20 million
stepping on Congress.
if Congress appropriates $20 million for a program, do you, as the chief executive, do I have to spend $20 million on that program?
Well, actually, this is
But
what
do
I'm
I?
trying to. This is why I
Because
brought.
if I don't,
I know
what's
that
the number?
I know that
Why
the
not do a
impoundment.
bit of an
hold on,
investigation into it first
I know that the
instead of-
Impoundment Control Act
the
thing
executive.
sounds really wonky, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I understand the idea of testing laws. You want to see how far you can go, but the question that you are asking has been answered by the courts, okay? The reason that the Impoundment Control Act exists is to say that when Congress says we appropriate this money, it should be spent that way. That's
No.
their power. They have the
Look,
power
every
of the
state in the
purse.
country, when we pass a balanced budget, and I'll explain what a balanced budget is
Again,
to everyone in
it's a
Washington in a minute.
dispute, but I'm
we don't
saying
spend, this
that
called the
hasn't
lapse.
been proven
There's
in
hundreds
courts.
of millions of dollars in New Hampshire that intentionally do not get spent on certain programs.
What
They're
about
supposed to lapse back into the
when the Trump administration says to Congress, you created this agency. We're going to just decide it doesn't exist anymore.
He runs the executive branch. He can decide who works for the executive branch.
Where does this end? So Congress creates an agency. The executive says, to heck with it. Congress appropriates money. The executive branch says, to heck with it. Where does this end?
So it ends. You can go back, and I like what they're doing, and they're going to whiteboard these programs out, and they're going to force each of these departments to come back and actually justify their existence, which no one in Washington has done for decades. If you want NIH money to go forward, explain to me why, how, and how it's going to be spent.
All right, so the next
That's all. They're
Democratic
going to
president
force
who
them
says
to the table.
ICE is going to just disappear, I expect that the two of you will say...
These leftoids are so disconnected from the American public. It is actually insane to see. If you voted for Trump, you voted for this. Trump ran on all these policies. He said line by line, agency by agency, I'm going to go through and I'm going to get this thing done. Because he wanted to reduce inflation. How do you reduce inflation? You reduce useless government overspending. And what we found is that, well, there was a lot of that. But none of these people on these panels who are on the left will ever talk about it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the BLM riots, where they never mentioned once that it wasn't good that a police station went up in flames. They never condemned any of it. Any of it. The same goes with this, where they are not talking about anything that Doge has found. These are taxpayers. They're also multimillionaires, but they pay taxes. They should be outraged about this, but they're not. And you know why they're not? Because CNN, MSNBC, and all this mainstream media nonsense is mostly a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. If it wasn't for Scott Jennings, there would be nothing to watch on this program. It would be like The View, a bunch of leftoids with TDS just arguing about Orange Man bad. Every time somebody brings up an argument, they say, yeah, but Trump this, yeah, but Trump that. No matter how you slice it, right now we're winning. Trump's approval rating is through the damn roof. Our border is not letting hardly anybody through right now. The streets are cleaned up from all the illegal immigrants. Trump's imposing tariffs on everybody in order to bring them to the table. That's what the tariffs are for. The tariffs are a heavy hammer that he can play. It's a heavy hand that he can play for negotiations. Oh, look, you don't want to talk to me? Here's some tariffs, 25%. Boom, come to the table. The same goes for the Gaza stuff. These people on the left, they don't get it. They don't get that Trump is playing 4D chess while they're playing checkers. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.